Welcome. I am Paul Mackey, and this is one Idjit's thoughts on the Gravity Falls finale. This is the penultimate day of the Dog Days of Podcasting Challenge 2024. If you haven't yet, you can go to dogdaysofpodcasting.com to find the master feed and listen to all entries from all participants. It might take a while. I'm woefully behind on listening to all my peers in the challenge myself. Having no other obligations this afternoon, I'm going to watch both finale episodes. I'll watch one, then write about it, then watch the other and write about it too. The Dog Days final post-Gravity Falls episode will come tomorrow morning then. So I'm going to stop and watch, but it'll be seamless for you. And now, let's talk about Gravity Falls Season 2, Episode 20, Weirdmageddon Part 3, Take Back the Falls. Brief summary. We begin just where Part 2 left off, with the reunion of the protagonists in the shack. It turns out that Stan has self-appointed as chief of the survivors, but his grand plan is for everyone to hide in the shack and eat brown meat until it runs out. Dipper says they should be out fighting to save the town, and Stan says it's good in here. Kind of a shabby reflection of Mabel last episode, and he says he's sure the rest of the town is just fine. Just then, a news report from Chandra Jimenez airs on the television from inside Bill's castle, showing the throne made of petrified humans in living agony until she herself is also turned to stone. Mabel and Dipper encourage the survivors to band together that they can get inside Bill's fortress and rescue Ford, who has claimed to know Bill's only weakness. Stan points out they are stuck. The stationary shack is the only place they are protected from Bill. Suddenly, McGucket develops a plan, and he shares it with the others, though not to us. In the castle, Bill unfreezes Ford and sets him down on a couch made of human flesh, singing "We'll Meet Again" like a demented Vera Lynn to him. Bill talks about how he transformed life in the second dimension and is ready to start on ours, but he is stuck. Know-it-all Ford reveals it is the Gravity Falls natural law of weirdness magnetism, and he knows how to defeat it. Bill tells Ford he could serve beside him as a fellow god if he tells Bill what he needs to know, but of course Ford refuses. Back at the shack, McGucket lays out blueprints for the thingamadiculous robomajig. Stan asks where he'd ever find a bunch of Idjits crazy enough to build it, and I know in my heart he meant Idjits. Turns out, they are all the Idjits in question, and at least part of the plan involves Chekhov's dinosaurs trapped in amber. The constructors pause by a fire later on. Mabel has given everyone apocalypse sweaters. Even Pacifica agrees to wear one with a llama on it after shivering uncontrollably first. Stan is off commiserating with Schmebulok, and when the twins question why, he says he's unsure about the grand plan to rescue his brother, who is always the hero while Stan is the screw-up. Stan rescued Ford from the portal, and there was never any gratitude. The next day, they fire up the invention, and the whole shack with robot arms and legs goes walking with them inside to the castle. Bill is in the middle of torturing Ford with electric shocks when the robot's dinosaur fist smashes through. Bill's minions swell to enormous size. I realize now that I didn't actually make any predictions, but Mass Kaiju Battle was not on the non-existent scorecard. That's for sure. The shack crew fights back successfully, and Bill realizes torturing the kids would probably get Ford talking, so he heads out to the battlefield personally. He fights the shack, but is blinded when the dinosaur fist snatches away his eye, and he complains, "Do you have any idea how long it takes to regenerate that thing?" Spoiler alert, apparently not very long. While Bill is occupied with battle, our core heroes slip out and infiltrate the castle. Gideon, tortured by forced dancing in a cage for Bill, tells them that if they pull the mayor free of the throne, the rest of the throne humans will be saved as well. Families are reunited, and Ford meets up with Stan and the twins. They ask about Bill's one weakness, and Ford grabs Robbie's spray paint and paints from memory a sigil he spotted on a cave wall long ago. He says it's clear the sigil was destined to save humanity because some of the symbols on it only make sense now, with everyone assembled right here. He gets Dipper to stand on the pine tree, Mabel on the shooting star, and others on various other symbols. Pacifica ends up on a llama that matches her sweater. Wendy stands on ice because she's cool in crisis. McGucket on the wise spectacles, and they all join hands and begin to glow. Stan, with the fish symbol on his fez, is the last component, and he refuses until Ford thanks him for returning him from the portal. Momentarily, the circle is complete, but Ford corrects Stan's grammar and they devolve into bickering and fighting until Bill looms overhead, having realized the robot arms and legs on the shack were not protected by the unicorn spell. Is that okay? Literal torture? And my favorite line...
The plan's to stay in here and eat brown meat until we run out. Then I vote we eat the gnomes.
Hey, I'm short, not deaf.
Shh. Stress will make you chewy.
I mentioned that I had finished the series at the dinner table tonight, and Iris spoke this line to me without knowing that I picked it as my favorite. I guess we must be related. So what worked? This was great stuff, an obvious part 2 of 3, but it was really solid. The middle part of the story got the heroes back together and saved the townspeople for now. All looked good, and it was the conflict of the relationship between the brothers that failed them at the end of the episode. This Idjit certainly never experienced anything like that in other media. Things to ponder. Well, the obvious question becomes whether this whole sigil thing is just a MacGuffin for the true solution at the end of the series. I'm also wondering about the whole law of weirdness magnetism thing. Stan says he knows a solution, but I'm still pondering whether the alien craft might be the source. And a brief summary of the last part. Bill confronts the circle and burns it. Everyone who isn't named Pines goes yellow-eyed and raises into the air. Bill transforms them all into banners that now hang from the rafters. Bill encloses the twins in a pyramid cage and tells Ford it's his last chance to save them. The twins shout for Ford not to make the deal. Bill confronts them, and Mabel sprays paint in his eye, saying she's made that mistake several times herself. Then Dipper uses a size crystal flashlight to grow the cage big enough for them to slip out and run away. They declare they will stop Bill and the brothers should save themselves. Bill tells the brothers to wait there and goes after the kids. Ford and Stan each blame themselves for their sibling friction causing all the trouble. Ford declares he will let Bill into his mind, and hopefully that will mean Bill will set the children free. He says they could use the memory gun to erase Bill and his mind together, but he has the metal plate that prevents that. Stan offers up his mind, but Ford's is the only one with the knowledge that Bill wants. The kids reach a blank wall, but Mabel supersizes her hand and smashes out the wall. They prepare to save the townspeople, but find the townspeople are already surrounded by monsters, one of whom eats Schmebulok as an example. And finding the twins distracted, Bill captures them. Back in the throne room, Bill shows the brothers the twins and does an eeny-meeny to decide which one to kill. When Ford says to stop, he will take the deal. Stan tells him he can't, that Bill will destroy the universe, but Stan says it's the last option, and he gets Bill to promise to spare the twins and Stan and shakes on it. Bill petrifies his own physical form and jumps into a white void in the mind. He gloats about how ordered the mindscape is, just one door, but behind it is Stan, in a recliner in the Mystery Shack. Stan says if they wear similar clothes, most people can't tell one brother from the other. They just switched clothes while Bill was chasing the twins. Bill tries to take back the deal, but the blue fire of the memory eraser is consuming the space. He shouts at Stan that his mind will be erased too, and Stan says he wasn't using it for much. Stan says Bill's one mistake was messing with his family, and Bill tries to offer Stan anything he wants. Stan punches Bill in the eye, and Bill is consumed by the flames, with this said in reverse.
A-H-O-L-O-T-L! My time has come to burn! I invoke the ancient power that I may return!
Stan looks at a picture of himself with the twins, saying he was good for something after all, and he is consumed by the blue flames as well. In the throne room, Ford drops the gun, finished with erasing his brother, and outside the creatures from the other dimension are all sucked back through the tear in the sky, and it closes with a flash that sweeps through the town, turning everything back to normal. Well, normal gravity falls anyway. Out in the forest, a bird settles on Bill's petrified arm. The twins rush up to Stan, and Mabel plops the fez back onto his head, and he asks what her name is. They return to the shack, and Mabel insists there must be some way to regain Stan's memories. She pulls out her scrapbook and tries to tell him stories of what has happened that summer. It doesn't seem to be working when the pig jumps up on Stan and he tells Waddles to get off of him. They realize the book is working, and Seuss tells them to skip to his page so he can learn about the boss-employee relationship. And Stan tells Seuss not to angle for a raise on account of his amnesia. They resume reading to Stan and laughing. We get to hear a news report from a restored Chandra Jimenez that the town is mostly recovered. The mayor declares he has signed the Never Mind All That Act, and if anyone comes to town and asks about the weirdness, they are to say, "Never mind all that," or risk getting tased by Blubs and Durland, reunited in love. Meanwhile, Preston Northwest, presumably after getting his face restored, apparently still supported Bill, and bought now worthless weirdness bonds with his family's fortune. The Northwest mansion is on the market. But Fiddleford McGucket is saner now, and he has filed patents worth millions. He's upgrading his shed, and he likes the one the Northwests have just vacated. It's also announced that Stan Pines is fully recovered and will be throwing a party to celebrate his niece and nephew's 13th birthday on the last day before they leave town. We see the cake to the last line of "Happy Birthday to You." Seuss tells them to make a wish, and Dipper says he's gotten everything he wished for this summer: adventure, mystery, and friendship. Mabel says she wishes she could shrink everyone down tiny and pack them with her. Then Wendy declares them teenagers, and they open presents. Meanwhile, Ford leads Stan away from the party a ways. He says he's detected anomalies near the Arctic, but he needs a sailing partner. Stan agrees to go in search of treasure and babes, like they always promised each other. Then they wonder about the shack. They continue to speak in low tones, and we can't hear, but Seuss does. Stan makes an announcement. He's going away for a while with his brother, and to the gasps of the crowd, he declares he is shutting down the Mystery Shack for good. But Seuss argues the Mystery Shack is the most magical place on Earth, and considering he's part of a Disney property, it's surprising he's saying that. He says the attractions are fake, but the dreams are real. Stan puts his fez on Seuss's head and declares him the new proprietor. Later, the attic bedroom is shown empty, and the twins are saying their goodbyes. Candy and Grenda say their goodbyes with Mabel, and Wendy gives Dipper a fist bump, and they say they mean a lot to each other. Then Wendy gives him an envelope to open when he misses Gravity Falls. Mabel tries to leave Waddles behind. Their parents won't let her bring home a pig. Waddles fights her on it, and finally Stan loads the pig on the bus over the objections of the bus driver. Stan's display of brass knuckles and Ford's ray gun in the holster do a lot of the talking in this case. Dipper's voiceover tells the viewer they may have heard of Gravity Falls, and if you're curious, don't wait. It's out there somewhere in the woods, waiting. On the bus, Dipper opens Wendy's envelope, and it is covered in signatures surrounding the message, "See you next summer," making hope spring eternal in the breasts of fans everywhere. The credits roll with vignettes from the summer along the edges, ending with Dipper and Mabel snoozing as the bus pulls in to Piedmont, California. Is that okay? You're gonna make kids into corpses, Bill. Okay. And my favorite line...
Hey, look at me. Turn around and look at me, you one-eyed demon. You're a real wise guy, but you made one fatal mistake. You messed with my family.
Who is? Well, first off, I had a sneaking suspicion about recognizing the bus driver's voice, but only really knew from the credits that it was cast member of Pacific Northwest Weirdness original, Twin Peaks, Agent Dale Cooper himself, Kyle MacLachlan. Then I realized I said early on that I would profile a storyboard artist. Dana Terrace worked storyboards during the second season. It was her first gig out of school. She was hired on after completing a storyboard test. Someone working with Gravity Falls saw her thesis film and offered her the chance. She storyboarded during the second season and worked on animating sequences that were deemed too important to farm out to other studios. From there, she moved into working for DuckTales in 2017. At some point during those years, she developed a personal relationship with Alex Hirsch, creator of Gravity Falls, and when she created The Owl House, her own Disney animated TV show, Hirsch used his multi-voice talent fans of Gravity Falls have witnessed to great effect voicing multiple characters for The Owl House. The Owl House was groundbreaking for Disney animation, with a bisexual female lead in a relationship with a supporting female character, a key non-binary character introduced during the second season, plus it really built on some of the creepiness foundation that was laid out by Gravity Falls years before. The third season of the series was cut down to 3 longer episodes, and when canceling it, Disney expressed concerns that the show was targeting an older demographic than the channel was courting, and that the storyline was ultimately too serialized. Dana Terrace announced by her Instagram that she had parted ways with Disney in early 2023. So what worked? They did really well in wrapping up the action portions early in the episode, with a grand heroic moment for Stan. Memory-wiped Stan really pulled at the heartstrings, evoking a situation of elder care for a parent or relative with dementia or Alzheimer's. It's understandable with the time constraints, but I think they jumped a little too fast into his recovery, heartwarming as it was. All the time with the restored town was a nice slowing of pace, allowing for some emotional beats and light humor. The series ended on a hopeful note. I cried a couple of times, both watching the episode and during the writing of this podcast. But maybe I'm just a big old sap. Next time. Well, there's no more Gravity Falls, but next time on the podcast, on the final day of the Dog Days Challenge, I'm planning to talk a bit about the other shows that I cover if you haven't had a chance to listen to them. I'll also be announcing some upcoming shows, and teasing another one. Happy hunting! You've been listening to the One Idjit's Thoughts On podcast, produced by Paul Mackey in association with Nimlas Studios. Any short clips of audio from shows is included under fair use for commentary purposes, and copyright for that content remains with its original copyright holders. The theme song is Too Good by Jack Mangan and is used by his generous permission. One Idjit's Thoughts is produced under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. You can find more episodes of this podcast and many other fine podcasts at nimlas.org. You can contact me by emailing idjitcastpodcast@gmail.com or commenting on episodes at nimlas.org.
Let's make our own memories.
Did you see the Fiji mermaid? Yeah, Seuss was holding it. Oh, come on. It's only the most famous taxidermy chimera this side of the jackalope.